champ. She got out well and then closed really strong. Swanstra almost stole that race from the top of the track. Not maybe one of the favorites there from Stanford, the South African star. And then you can see Not, the Philippines national record holder, getting up for second. She ran well in the 200 last night, was 5th. Not was a Tokyo Olympian for the Philippines. So that kind of sets the frame there for the finals. You can see 7:54 for Abdul Rashid, trying to make her second final. She's already in the 60 hurdle final. Shahid Davis was a part of that 200 final last night, ran so well at 200 meters, one of the top in the country in that event now. And she should be in this 60 final as we get ready for heat number 2. And there is heat 2. Christiana Boyd, back from the hurdles for West Texas College. Kamaria Knight, New Mexico JC. Cassie Small, back from the hurdles from Grand Canyon. Carletta Bernard, we saw her finish second in the 200 last night. She's currently the number 11 runner in the NCAA for Texas there in lane 4. Right next to her, Nina Thévenin from Grand Canyon, the French star. And then Alyssa Jones, the All-American jumper for Stanford, with Grayson of Grand Canyon. But look at Carlita Bernard doing what she did last night. She seems to be in top form early in this indoor season. She's a top 15 mark in the country at 200 meters, and then she absolutely dominates that heat here in the 60 meters, 7:33. So Bernard is on a heater here at the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Invitational for the Longhorns. Turned away a nice field there in section 2. And Alyssa Jones, the star jumper, 6-time All-American. She's the Pac-12 record holder in the long jump. She'll retire with that record, obviously. Well, we'll see what happens with the Pac-12. And she runs very well. And so Bernard, the fastest time of the day out of heat 2. You can see a loaded top 8 right there. Anything under 750 to make that final. It's going to take under 750 to make that final. Bernard, 7:33. They add 0.2 here at altitude. We're going to see where that puts her on the national list. That's going to be a top 30 mark in the nation, probably, for Bernard. We'll see if she runs faster in the final. Here is your third and final heat. Hope's last chance to make this final. Ta'Aja Fawn of Cal Poly Pomona, Ryan Lacefield of Cal, Aaliyah Foster of Texas, Layla Lawson in New Mexico, Jody and Stewart, Eastern New Mexico, and Janice Everett of CSU Pueblo. Lacefield of Cal there in 4, more of a 400-meter specialist, NCAA regional qualifier in that, number 7 all-time at Cal. Right next to her, Foster of Texas, a long jump specialist, All-American long jumper for the Longhorns. Layla Lawson, the freshman from Frisco, Texas for New Mexico there in 5. That's kind of the middle of the track. Lacefield, Foster, and it's Foster, and look at Lawson trying to close the freshman, but it is the long jump star Aaliyah Foster going to join fellow long jump All-American Alyssa Jones. Well, we'll see if the time holds up and she makes that final. We'll get the time there for Foster. She doesn't seem to love it, 767. Yeah, that's gonna keep her out of the final, unfortunately, for Foster. So, but there is no shame in that. This is a loaded 60 final we're gonna see later this afternoon. And there are your finalists. Bernard, I don't want any part of her right now. She is running so well for Coach Edric Florial of Texas. Ricky Morgan Jr., the sprint coach at Texas, has got to love what he's seeing from Bernard early in the season. The Jamaican star is going to be a factor in the Big 12 and possibly at the national level, as she moves so easily. Movo looked good out of heat 1. The All-American long jumper Jones, not the Olympian for Philippines. Swanstra was somewhat of a surprise. So 2 Stanford Cardinal in the top 5 in that final, and then 3 Longhorns of Texas. That should make for a great final. So our finals, our short sprint finals, are now set in both the 60 hurdles and the 60 dash. So for now, that closes down the interior part of the oval. Next event on the track, scheduled for 11:20, is the men's 300. We can take a short break and come back for the men's 300. Scheduled in just about 3 minutes. My name is Scott Abbott, and we have, you can see some of our upcoming indoor events here on FloTrack. Virginia Showcase, outstanding invitational. We already saw that earlier this year. You can see the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Invitational, and then some upcoming events, including the John Terrier Classic at BU. And we're back here in New Mexico a few times, some great international competitions. FloTrack brings you so much great track and field action. So many great meets coming up on this indoor season. Number of meets at that great Boston University facility. as well as many here in Albuquerque, and then a lot of those great indoor events internationally, and then a great lineup of outdoor events. Here you can see the 10, an outstanding distance event in Southern California. Some of the top distance runners in the world participating there. The Brian Clay Invitational, really the premier collegiate invitational on the West Coast. A number of great high school meets, Junior Olympics, Texas State Championships, California State Championships, FloTrack, your spot for track and field. And this is something very exciting, the Diamond League coming up on FloTrack this summer. This is the premier track and field events in the world, seeing the best athletes in the world going to compete right here on FloTrack in the Diamond League. We've got some exciting things for you from FloTrack, both indoors, outdoors, and then capped off with that Diamond League schedule. Thank you for joining us here on FloTrack. We're back at the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Invitational. Great short sprint races, and now we're ready for the 300s. Two athletes here in the 300. In this first heat of the 300, that is a lap and a half of this indoor track, a non-traditional event. And coming up, capital cities. That's Austin Cole, I believe. 33-4 for Cole. Austin Cole, 33-32. That improves on his 30. Well, he ran 32.89 earlier this season. I'm sorry, he's a 45 400 meter runner. Third, great Canadian. He was third at the Canadian Champs outdoors at 400, getting some great work here in the 300. This is a really good event for 400 meter runners to really early season get that push, feel the sting of the race, and really kind of prepare that kind of key piece as they get ready to stretch out to 400 meters outdoors. And Cole, one of the best in Canada at 400 meters, as I said, 45.51, winning that first heat all by himself out there on the outside. Here's heat number 2, Colton Smith of Ranger Community College, Alonzo Paul of Arizona Christian, and then the duo from New Mexico Junior College, Bovell McPherson and Benjamin Nisaya. So 300 meters, as I said, one of the only races that follows the circuit of the track that doesn't start and end on the common start-finish line. This one is a lap and a half, so they'll actually run 3 turns of this indoor track. So a non-traditional distance, but a really good confluence event where you get 200 meter runners, maybe working on their strength to stretch out a bit, 100 and 200 meter runners stretching out a little bit, and then the 400 meter runners and the 400 meter hurdlers dropping down and getting, you know, a really good early season test to prepare them for the 400. So Smith, Nisei, just the 2 athletes in this heat. As we have some scratches, Colton Smith, Benjamin Nisaya. And it's Nisaya on the outside in that preferred outer lane. You know, dealing with these bank turns, the tight bank turns, anything on the outside is always going to be the preferred lane. And it is Nisaya of New Mexico Junior College leading this second heat. We saw Cole win out of that outside lane in the first heat. Nisaya going to do the same here in the second heat. Did a nice job of holding his rhythm all the way around the track. And in some ways, the 300 can be even more challenging than the indoor 400 as they have to navigate those bank turns from their lane 3 times, where the indoors, or in the 400, you only have to do it twice, because you brake after the second turn, and then you're running kind of in lane 1 the rest of the way for the most part in the 400, where here in the 300, they're having to navigate that third turn from their, just kind of an interesting event for these long sprinters, a chance to, take some time to develop and learn the event, but it definitely is something where you see 400-meter runners really thrive in this event. And there you can see Messiah trying to catch his breath after that 300. And here's our next heat, our third of 6 heats. D'Angelo Hawthorne of Arizona Christian, Brody Young of New Mexico, and Haksudwa Pahua of New Mexico JC on the outside. Let's keep an eye on Brody Young here in New Mexico. You can see in the all-red kit right there in the middle with his blocks between the U and the E of Albuquerque. Brody Young, a Scottish star, has run 45.71 for the Lobos. That's number 3 all-time at New Mexico in the 400. All Mountain West performer. We saw him yesterday in the 200. And Young there in the all-red kit has been just a solid competitor for over the past couple of years for New Mexico. Really burst onto the scene as a freshman. Has performed really well at international competition at the U20 level for Great Britain, the Scottish native from Glasgow. And him being a little bit shorter allows him to really manage, I think, the indoor track well. So expect big things out of him this season in the Mountain West Conference indoors in the 400 and 200. And kind of the in-between event here in the 300. We'll see how he does against Pahua, who's on his outside in that preferred lane. Remember, the outside lanes are always the preferred lanes, so Young is going to try to challenge Pahua, and there they are. They're neck and neck with 1 turn to go. Brody Young of New Mexico overtakes Pahua, who's got that preferred lane. Let's see if Pahua can come back, but no, it's Young that powers away. 32.8, he loves it. Young really likes that mark. He is fired up. 32.79 for the Scottish star. Non-traditional event, that's not an NCAA event, so won't really be on a descending order list to qualify for the national championships, but that bodes really well, a mark like that for Young, as he sets himself up to be a Mountain West champion, potentially in the 400 and 200. And obviously, New Mexico, we're going to get to see you in the mile event later. They lead with distance running. They have one of the best distance programs in the country, but having someone like Brody Young can be a huge ace in the hole for the Lobos as they look for points all over the track and field in the Mountain West to complement their great distance program. All right, heat number 4 here. Jordan Brown of Arizona Christian, Anthony Brazier of Arizona Christian, and Luke Buddy, the very busy Luke Buddy, the multi-eventer from Cal. We've already seen him in the 60 hurdles and the 60 dash. If there's a race, Buddy is running it. and now he's up in the 300. Shivani Reed of New Mexico Junior College and Kahari Wilbon of New Mexico. Wilbon was a 200-meter heat winner yesterday for New Mexico, the freshman from Aurora, Colorado, there on the outside, right next to the L in Albuquerque in the all-red kit there. And Buddy of Cal in the yellow top, or the gold top, and the blue shorts of Cal in his third race of the day for the Bears. The multi-eventer getting a lot of good work here in at the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Invitational. Kahari Wilbon out well on the outside. It's Wilbon trying to hold off Reed of New Mexico Junior College. You can see Reed really giving a nice chase inside of him in the white top. So it's Wilbon and Reed in a dead heat right now. The freshman Wilbon trying to hold on like he did in the 200 yesterday, but right now he's getting all he can handle from Shivani Reed. Shivani Reed, Jahari Wilbon, and Wilbon answers back, and it is going to be Jahari Wilbon, the excellent freshman from Aurora, Colorado, and he seems to like it as well. So between Young and Reed, the Lobos fired up right now. The Lobos long sprinters fired up. And there's Buddy. We'll see if he can find any more races to run today, or maybe he'll be in the field. We got obviously some great field event action going on here as well. Now look at Wilbon. Second consecutive heat win there for the Lobos. The freshman getting his career started very nicely here at the Dr. Martin Luther King Invitational as he notches his second heat win of the weekend. Now heat 5, Maximus Gidley of Arizona Christian, Eastern New Mexico's Jude Murray, Seth Johnson, another multi-eventer for Cal there in 4, Tyrell Smith of CSU Pueblo, and Antonio Munoz, the fine freshman for New Mexico, on the outside. This is our 5th of 6 heats. So our penultimate heat here in the men's 300. And then our women will be up in the 300, and then that will give way to one of our premier events of the weekend, the men's and the women's mile. I already mentioned that great New Mexico distance squad. We're gonna see their big stars on display on both the men's and the women's side in that mile coming up here at noon. Some of the very best in the country, early season, gonna get after it in the mile right in the middle of the meet, and that'll be right before our hurdle and sprint finals that we saw the prelims for already, those invitational sections. So some big finals coming up here with the mile, the 60 hurdles, and the 60 dash, as well as our invitational sections of the 400. So things beginning to percolate here, get hot as the meat of the meat, the kind of the showcase events coming up here. And the next heat of the men's 300. Looks like Seth Johnson there with Tyrell Smith, the CSU Pueblo, just outside of him. Just the two of them here in heat number 5. Oh, way down on the far right side of your screen is also Gidley of Arizona Christian. So 3 is open and 6 is open. So it's Gidley, Johnson, and Smith. Should be a good battle here between Johnson and Gidley. Or sorry, Johnson and Smith there on your screen. And Smith out very well. Johnson, another one of those multi-eventers for Cal that we've seen in a variety of events, but it's all Tyrell Smith, a CSU Pueblo right now, in the baby blue top there, holding his form nicely through the top of that turn. Johnson trying to give one more push, but it's going to be Tyrell Smith driving to the line. Excellent run there out of lane 5. Good wide shot there of this Albuquerque facility. And there's Smith, the heat winner there. .33.96, dipping under 34 seconds. That's an excellent run for CSU Pueblo Star. They're a top Division II program. We saw their distance runners run so well last night. Numerous All-Americans, both men and women. We'll see some of them back coming up here in the mile and 800s later this afternoon for the Thunderwolves. And this is the final heat of the 600. I'm sorry, the final heat of the 300. Ryan King of CSU Pueblo, Smith's teammate there. Zachary Cornelius of Arizona Christian. CJ Pizik, he was a heat winner yesterday in the 200. And then Damon Fraboda, who was second in his heat of the 600 yesterday. So meeting in the middle here, some 200-meter runners stretching out, 400-meter runners running the 300, and then you have Fraboda, who ran the 600. And you can see him on the outside in the all-orange Texas kit. His block's right next to the L in Albuquerque. He's gonna have lane 5 open, so he's gonna be running a little blind there on the outside. We'll see if Pizik can bring him back from the middle of the track in the all red there for New Mexico. Again, from the inside out, King, Cornelius, Pizik, and Fraboda. So Pizik, the heat winner at 200, moving up. Fraboda, second in his heat in 600, moving down. They meet in the middle at 300 meters, and it's Fraboda dominating there on the outside right now. Pizik really trying to close. Let's see, Pizik starting to make up some ground now in the middle, but it's Fraboda of Texas gonna win this 6-in final heat. So some good work there, 600 and 300 for Damon Fraboda there. 34.07, just missed breaking 34 seconds. But a nice 900 meters of work on the weekend for Fraboda. He was a little more comfortable, I think, in that event. I saw in the 600 last night, he got out really strong and kind of struggled to hold on and close. And the 300 today was able to kind of really hold his form all the way through. around those 3 different turns that he had to navigate on this banked indoor track. Now our women's 300. There are 6 heats of the women's 300. Crystal Curson of Arizona Christian in lane 3. Mia Morris of Western Texas College in 4. Grace Conrad, Capital City Track Club in 5, the Canadian. And in lane 6, Lauren Lewis of Texas, the All-American from Prosper, Texas, for the Longhorns. She's a mountain or a Big 12 scorer in the 400. Part of their 4x4 team that went to the NCAA finals, earned All-American honors as a part of that relay. Did Lewis there in lane 6 in the orange on the outside with blocks right next to the L. She's gonna have to deal with Grace Conrad, the Canadian club star, there in lane 5. Full house here. All the traditional lanes of these long sprints filled, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Person, Morris, Conrad, and Lewis. Lewis in that preferred outside lane. Leah Morris just inside of her. And Lewis running well, the All-American. Kind of strikes first. And let's see if Conrad can lock her down. Here comes Conrad, really slingshotting off of turn number 2 into turn 3, and it is Grace Conrad. Good high knee drive, powering home. Grace Conrad is going to win heat 1 here of the 336.6 unofficially. Really managed those indoor turns well. Came off of that, really the first main turn that they have to navigate as they start on the staggers. So the first full turn, and she slingshotted down into that backstretch so well and just exploded by Lewis. And was able to hold on, got a little tight late, but still held on. 36.6 for Conrad. So Capital City Track Club winning on the men's side that first heat, and also now the women's side this first heat. Heat number 2, Georgia Gomez, Luann Posanere in 4, Nandy Kihu of New Mexico Junior College in 5, and Leah Martinez of CSU Pueblo scheduled for lane 6. And there you can see her in the baby blue top of the Thunderwolves. So Martinez on the outside with Kihu just inside of her of New Mexico Junior College.
On your marks.
Leah Martinez, we saw in the 200 yesterday. She actually had to run out of lane 3, which is very tough to do in the 200. She now at 300 is going to get this preferred outside lane. So we'll see how she handles that.
Set.
And it was Kihuyu who was out of the blocks best, and now she's already gobbled up the stagger. Keep an eye on Posanere inside in the white top, ready to attach. She now gobbles up the stagger on Kihuyu, and it is going to be Luann Posanere. Posanere, unattached runner here. running well. Look at that, she loves that mark. Rosenacre, 37:14, that's an outstanding time there in section 2. In not the most ideal lane in the middle of the track, was able to really navigate those bank turns well, and on that second turn overtake Kihuyu, who holds on to run 38:52. Rosenacre with the heat win there, running unattached, redshirting, I believe student athlete at New Mexico, but running unattached now. So we'll see where she fits in for the Lobos. Out heat 3, Tori Anderson of Cal, the multi-eventer down in lane 3. Keisha Tyner of Ranger Community College in 4, Rebecca Grieve of New Mexico in 5. There you see Grieve right in the middle of your screen. And then her teammate Hannah Keese outside of her. Grieve won the 200-meter unseeded division last night in the 200. She's run 54:16 for 400, so right in the middle for her. Ran that great 200 yesterday. That's Keisha Tyner right there for Ranger Community College. And that duo from New Mexico, Grieve and Keese. Keese, the 400 hurdler. She prepped right here in the state of New Mexico. She was the state champion in the state of New Mexico as a prep. That is Hannah Keese on the outside. So she stays home to attend the University of New Mexico. Long hurdle stud for the Lobos. This is a good test for her on an indoor track at 300 meters, but look at Grieve picking up right where she left off yesterday when she won the unseeded 200, having a bit of a breakthrough indoor season for the Lobos. Rebecca Grieve absolutely crushing right now. She heads into that final turn, doing a nice job maintaining form. Good arm drive as she comes off that turn. Trying to stay smooth all the way through the finish. Good lean at the line. Trying to dip under 37 seconds for the 400-meter stalwart for the Lobos. She did win her heat. She does dip under 38 seconds, 37.81. She seems to like that. 400-meter hurdler Keese, a good run as well. There's Grieve's mark, 37.81. And the Lobos go 1-2. You can see where Grieve's mark stacks up there. It's the fastest collegiate mark. Faster than Lewis, All-American for Texas in Heat 1. And it's the Canadian Conrad who dips under 37 seconds. Winning that first heat. And there you can see Rosenacre, her New Mexico teammate, though running unattached. Both heat winners there. Kind of talking through how that one felt. Yeah, that's one of the great things in track and field, especially after a challenging race, is that feeling afterwards, talking through it with teammates, breaking everything down, all the nerves building up to the event. These events go very quickly, especially the sprint events. You have a lot of buildup, and then just the relief and endorphins that are flowing after the race, and getting to celebrate with teammates is a big part of this sport, especially at the collegiate level. All right, here we go. Heat number 4 now. Tania Miles of Ranger Community College, Yasan Pert of New Mexico JC, Ava Nyom of New Mexico, and Holly Okuku of Texas. Keep an eye on Okuku on the outside. She looked so good in the 400 last night. She was the unseeded champ in the unseeded divisions, and just so smooth. The German star, she was the Euro under 18 silver medalist at 200 in the European Championships, European under 20 or under 18 championships last year. We saw her run well over 200, now trying to hold on here, as stretched out at 300 as Nyom, the freshman from Katy, Texas, tries to bring her back. And Okuku closes nicely, wins that heat as she did in her 400. So a lot of work for Okuku here. 38.79, so she runs a 4 and a 3. She's getting a ton of work in. The German star, mechanically so smooth. Kind of broke down a little there at the end of the 3, which we didn't see as much in the 400, so maybe pressing her upper limits there. Nyam, the freshman for New Mexico, running well there in second, dipping under 40 seconds. And 2 heats remaining here in these women's 300s before we set up one of our premier events of the weekend, the men's and women's miles. Here's section 5, Jade Williams of Grand Canyon, Sofia Pineda of New Mexico, and then Mackenzie Collins of Texas. Collins we saw win the 200, or at least win her heat of the 200 last night. So we'll keep an eye on her on the outside there. This great sprint squad for Ricky Morgan Jr., the sprint coach at the University of Texas. Texas women were 3rd at the national championships last year outdoors on the backs of this sprint squad. They were indoor and outdoor champions in the Big 12, 3rd at the national championships for Coach Edric Florial, the head coach at Texas, who's built such a great program there. A legendary coaching career for Coach Flo. And Ricky Morgan Jr., a big part of that with his sprint and hurdle squad. And we've seen them all over the place for the last 2 days as they position themselves to make a run at a trophy indoors at the national championships and another Big 12 title.
Yeah, a good 4 seconds off because I ran about
Yeah, that's Collins on the outside there,
5 seconds off.
trying to match her teammate Okuku's win from the previous heat. We saw Lauren Lewis run well in heat number 1 for the Longhorns. And then Pineda of New Mexico tries to keep pace just inside of her with Jade Williams of Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon performing very well this weekend. But it's all Mackenzie Collins right now of Texas. 100 or 200 yesterday. Trying to do the same, stretching out over 3, and you can see her tying up just a bit. Look at Pineda bringing her back. And as Pineda, she smells blood, is coming hunting for the heat win. And it is Sofia Pineda. Holds nicely all the way through that final turn and powers down the home stretch for the heat win. Pineda. Nice job maintaining form all the way through, staying smooth. Collins looked like she attacked early and then got very, very tight late. Truncated stride a little bit, got on the backside, and Pineda just stayed smooth through the turn. You could tell she kind of got sucked in to Collins's wake a little bit, felt the energy from that, and was able to shoot off that final turn and power home. Sofia Pineda, the heat win, 39-21. Collins does dip under 40 seconds. With this final heat here, before we get set for that men's mile, with the first heat being really that fast, hot heat of the mile. Featuring numerous All-Americans, some top professional competitors in that mile coming up here. But the headliner being Abatum Samuel of New Mexico. We're excited to watch him run. The defending NCAA champion at 10 kilometers. Number 2 all time collegiately at 10 kilometers. He's gonna drop down and run the mile here. The 6-time All-American. He's on the Bowerman watch list for the coveted Bowerman Award for the very best track athlete in the country. Samuel on that watch list. Here's that final heat of the women's 300. Kyla Rusic, Roxy Alvarado, Anaya Corliss, and Gabriel Dunich. The 2 athletes from CSU Pueblo bookend this field, Rusic and Dunich. Rusic down on the inside, on the right side of your screen, Dunich on the outside, on the left side of your screen. And then Corliss in New Mexico just inside of her, with Roxy Alvarado of Western Texas College in lane 4. Corliss was a heat winner yesterday, but it's Dunich out well. Now here comes Corliss, and it's Anaya Corliss of New Mexico. Takes up the stagger on Dunich, but Dunich still battling on the outside, but Corliss beginning to separate a bit from Dunich. And now it's Anaya Corliss of New Mexico in the 6th and final heat of the 300. As she's coming home, getting a little long with the mechanics there, but is able to close it out just over 40 seconds. As I said, when I say she's getting long, you kind of get a little of that swim technique when you get tired, where the arms start to swim, the legs get a little long. And her and her coaches will tighten that up a bit. But still, a great heat win there for Corliss, backing up the heat wins of Pineda and Grieve. And you can see the Lobos with 4 in the top 10 there in the 300 behind the unattached athletes. And technically, Bozanegra is a New Mexico student athlete and just redshirting this season, getting the opportunity at these home indoor meets. Great opportunity for her to hop in, get some great work in. So that long sprint crew looking good for the Lobos there in the 300. And that brings our milers to the track. Like I said, one of the premier events of the day here. Men's mile. I mentioned Abatum Samuel, one of the headliners of this meet. He was the NCAA runner-up in cross country. He's wearing hip number 2 there for New Mexico. He was the NCAA champion outdoors at 10K, so this is definitely on the lower end of his range. But you can see the whole pack of Lobos there, all in the red tops. That is one of the best distance squads in the country. They were 9th in the fall at the NCAA Cross Country Championships, one of their highest finishes ever. But they have loaded up this winter. Coach Galson not waiting for the summer to add to his stock here, as he added a number of key athletes, international athletes at the semester to join this crew. 2 of them on display here in this group. Ishmael Kipkuri, added from Kenya, a world championship competitor, now joins this New Mexico crew, as does Joshua Abrams from France. He's wearing hip number 8. He was added at the semester, also a world championship qualifier. So 2 big-time studs to add to a squad that already includes one of the very best in the country, and Abatam Samuel. And then the rest of that Lobo team that finished 9th at the NCAA Cross Country Championships. A few of the All-Americans in there, a part of that team that support Samuel. Collins Kiprotich wearing hip number 4. Evans Kiplagat wearing hip number 7. They were both All-Americans in cross country. Mentioned Kip Curry wearing hip 6 and Abrams wearing hip 8. They're the 2 new adds to this program. And then you got Vincent Cheer, who was a scorer for them in cross country, wearing hip 10. And Lucas Kiprop, also part of that cross country team, wearing hip number 5. So this is just a loaded group of Lobos there. And then you can see on the outside, even though he's an all red, he isn't a New Mexico athlete, Arizona athlete, Gideon Mengich of Arizona, gonna do battle with one of the best distance squads in the country on their home turf. But then wearing hip number 1, you'll see kind of separated from that group, there is Walid Suleiman. He is a professional athlete running for the Brooks Beast Track Club based up in Seattle. And he is one of the very best milers in the United States. Former All-American at Ole Miss. He's run 3:33 for 1,500 meters. Was a semifinalist in the Olympic trials this summer at 1,500 meters in the United States. And he's run 3:51 for the mile. So as much as we are excited to see the Bowerman watch Abatam Samuel, he's gonna have his hands full here with Suleiman, the professional, who is a semifinalist at the Olympic trials. There's Samuel and Suleiman, they're talking a bit there. And then we're excited to watch their newcomers. Kip Curry, the shorter athlete wearing hip 6. He's brand new to New Mexico. 13:05, 5,000 meter runner. What an embarrassment of riches for New Mexico. They're 9th at the national championships in cross country, and then they add a 13:05, 5,000 meter runner to their stock. And then in the outer alley, Joshua Abrams, the 3:41, 1,500 meter runner from France, who qualified for the World Championships. He's wearing hip 8. He's in that outer alley. So they're gonna run 8 laps around the track. Just a tick over 8 laps to make the full mile here. And there's Suleiman and Samuel.
On your marks.
And we're ready, we're off here. We're gonna get about a 6-second altitude adjustment. So anything under about 4:05 or so is gonna be a equivalent of a sub 4-minute mile. So that's like right around 31 seconds or so through 200 meters is what we'd be looking for. And it looks like Mengich of Arizona is taking him out. Not sure if he's in there to rabbit the race or just jumped on it early, but he is clear of the field right now. And then it's Suleiman and Samuel, kind of comfortable right now. The pace is not really quick with that chase pack. And it's Mengich there. Oh no, I'm sorry, that's number 9. That's Dylan Burrows in New Mexico. So he might be in there to pace and get things going. And he comes through in right around 61 seconds, which would have him on sub-4 pace with the altitude conversion, but they didn't seem to want to go with them. And it's Suleiman kind of leading that main group right now. I believe Burrows might be pacing, not sure, but then Samuel, the 10K star, number 2 all time at the NCAA level. And still Burrows, your leader. Suleiman, one of the best in America at the professional level, 351 miler. They've now bridged back up to Burrows. So it's Suleiman, Samuel, and then that slew of stars, and the newcomer, or that's Colin Kiprotich, wearing hip 4, the All-American in cross country for the Lobos. And look at that squad. That's one of the best distance squads in the country, all on display here in the mile. A little slow through 800 meters, which means we're gonna see some fireworks here over the back half. It's still Burrows leading. Dylan Burrows in New Mexico. The former Ole Miss All-American, Olympic trial semifinalist. Suleiman, now Burrows' work is done. He slides by, took it through 1 kilometer, and now it's Suleiman. Let's see if Samuel can hang tight. The middle distance star starting to put it on. The 10,000 meter runner, which you'd think it would be the other way around, as we're not sure that we'll see if Samuel has the wheels to hang in there, as his specialty is at the longer distances. And then it's still Kiprotich, Collins Kiprotich, who seems up to the task, hanging right there with Samuel and Suleiman. And then you can see Kiprot and Kipkuri, the newcomer for New Mexico, as they get into their final 400 meters here. And look at Kiprotich challenging Samuel. Collins Kiprotich slides into second, goes by the Bowerman Watch list performer Samuel, but it's all the lead Suleiman right now. And look at Kiprotich trying to get a huge win here over a great field. And as Kiprotich strikes first at the bell, let's see if Suleiman can answer back. Kiprotich with 100 meters to go. He's got a shot to break 4 minutes at altitude. That would be one of the top times in the country if he can hang on to do it. Kiprotich struck early. Back 3:58.7 at altitude is a monster run for Kiprotich. There were a lot of names in that field. Don't get me wrong, Kiprotich is an All-American, but I don't think he was somebody we picked for the win. But he just seemed to be right there through every move. Let Suleiman do a lot of the work through the middle, and then struck with 200 to go. 3:58.60. That's going to go down to like a 3:53, I think. That might put him number 3 when the altitude adjustment comes in. That's probably going to put him number 3 at the NCAA level right now. Collins Kiprotich sends a statement, and you gotta love that if you're New Mexico. Look at that team right there on display. Obviously they train at altitude, a little easier for them to manage that, like Suleiman coming from Seattle where he trains, a little more difficult to deal with the altitude. I think he's gotta love that on a conversion. That's gonna be like a 3:53 for him, right near his personal best. But Kiprotich, you know, that's one of the, you know, debates about the altitude adjustment is here you get these athletes that live and train at altitude getting the same adjustment that the sea level athletes are. So it is a nice advantage, especially when you start talking about qualifying marks for the national championships, when you can get athletes that live and train at altitude, running at altitude, and they get that big boost. But that's the way the cookie crumbles, and traditionally the best times are always going to come from sea level races. But Kiprotich and Samuel will probably not run that event at the national championships, as he is more of a long distance runner. Mountain West record holder Samuel is he has 4 different Mountain West records: the 5K indoors and outdoors, the 3K indoors, and the 10K outdoors. So more of a long distance runner. We will expect to see him in the 3K and the 5K at the national championships. But now Kiprotich puts himself on that descending order list in a spot to go to the national championships in the mile for New Mexico. Wow, well, that did not disappoint. Sub 4 minute miles at altitude here. And now heat number 2.
On your marks.
And in this heat, Matthew Andrade of New Mexico, Rikus Van Niekerk, one of the scorers for that New Mexico squad in cross country, is running unattached as they go through that first turn. Micah Pays of Wingate, one of the top Division II programs in the country for distance running. John Sweepy, we saw him last night of CSU Pueblo, great middle distance runner for them. Another good D2 program. And it looks like that is Thomas Termodi of unattached going to the front. Kiprotich Koich of New Mexico in there. Matthew Hamilton of Grand Canyon in there as well. A couple more from New Mexico, Reese Crawford and Blake Reynolds, as well as Will Pardue. And they're strung out there. You can see Sweep of CSU Pueblo behind the early lead, Termodi, as they go through 62 seconds. Very good first 400 meters here. So they aren't messing around up front. Termodi actually pretty close to the pace of that first section. Now we'll see if they can stay with it. And obviously they closed very well in that first heat. You can think things settling down just a bit here. John Sweep of CSU Pueblo in a good spot. He won his heat last night at 600 meters, I believe. Thomas Termodi he's a red shirt at New Mexico, on the pointy end of things right now, keeping things rolling. We're going to get a halfway split coming up here. They were 62, so maybe right around 205 we're looking for, which would be very excellent running if they can break 410. That's going to put them down right around 402, 403 with the conversion. Sweep seems up to the task. And it is Termodi now sliding by. It seems like they've got pace setters through 1 kilometer for all these races. And now it's Sweep on the front with Enrodi of New Mexico right on his heels. And this is the difficult part now that the pace setter is gone. Sweep gonna kind of keep things rolling, trying to keep him on that 62, 63 second rhythm for 400 meters, keeping him under 410, which would put him around 402, 403 with the altitude conversion, which would be excellent time for Sweep. That'd be an NCAA Division II qualifier for sure. And Rody is looking up at a ton of teammates that just ran very fast, trying to add his name to that list. And look at Sweep starting to kind of break off in Rody right now. And it's John Sweep in the final 400 meters here. And Rody not giving in just yet. He's kind of keeping that cord tight between the two of them as Sweep tries to break him off. We'll see if Rody can mount another charge. You can see the rest of the field there in the battle for third. Sweep begins to separate a little bit more. He's got a little daylight there with 200 meters to go. And Roddy is digging deep, trying to close, but John Sweep, an impressive performance here, basically leading start to finish. Obviously had a pace setter early on, but he tucked it right behind that pace setter and is now sawed off in Roddy. Let's see if Roddy can mount one more late charge. Sweep battling to get home, trying to dip under 4:10. He did all he could to keep that thing on 62-second pace to stay under 4:10. It's still going to be a 4:04, 4:05 converted mile for Sweep. We'll see where that puts him on the Division II list. His teammate Sharman Newell leads that list, but that will probably, with an altitude conversion, should put him in the top 10 in the nation for Division II. So Sharman Newell, his teammate who we saw win the 3K last night, is your national leader at Division II. Now CSU Pueblo has 2 of the top 10 in the country. Again, another team that lives and trains at altitude, taking advantage of that altitude conversion that you get. Nice run for Enradi, 4:11. That's going to convert down to about a 4:05, 4:06. Impressive weekend for Sweep. 2 heat wins, I believe. And he is a big part of that great middle distance crew they have at CSU Pueblo. They were 13th in cross country at the national championships. And they should be a big factor in the RMAC, obviously at the conference level, but at the national level in the middle distances. As we get ready for heat number 3 here. And you can see some of the competitors there. Caleb Beloy of CSU Pueblo, Fernando Salinas, Escuadra of Mexico. Another CSU Pueblo runner, Joseph Harker. And then a couple from Grand Canyon, Michael Archie, Ethan Smith, Emmanuel Corral, and Spencer Desmond on the outside for Grand Canyon as they go down the backstretch. And they'll do the first lap before they break in. Got Samuel Bryan of Lubbock Christian in there with Jack Collins, Angelo State, duo from New Mexico, JC, Brian Chariot, and Mohammed Meraki. And then Joseph Harker, another one of those Pueblo stars in the mix there. As they come through their first lap, they kind of bunch up a bit. And believe on the front is Salinas of Escuadra. We saw him last night in the 600. No, I'm sorry, he was in the 3K.